hey, we're finally getting into the meat and potatoes of the plot. The season itself is actually shaping up pretty decent. We're no longer dealing with the pilot stuff. We just got the new Cosmic Fury suits. They're off to find Zayto and see what happened to him. Of course, the big reveal is the new Dark Blue Ranger suit, which is where I should actually begin. You know, we've complained about the Cosmic Fury suits since a really long time, and then we get immediately introduced to this new Dark Blue Ranger suit, which I think everyone agrees that it was amazing. It mixes a lot of elements together. First, obviously, it's going to mix a lot of the squid stuff and Lord Zedd's kind of style into the Dark Blue Ranger suit. It took all the flat stuff, made them embossed, sharp, ready to impale enemies, so it feels more menacing, evil. But the main thing about this episode is what happened to Zayto. And Zayto's been a mystery since the very ending of Dino Fury Season 2, because he had died and we had no idea what happened. He came back all of a sudden alive and well. That brought up a ton of issues with, you know, Power Rangers in general, because, oh my god, the Morphing Masters brought back Zayto. So was Zayto actually killed in the Zord explosion? Did they revive him? You know, Trini in the MMPR Once and Always Special, because, like, if the Morphing Masters can save Zayto, then why didn't they save Trini? So it brought up a whole bunch of questions that even I couldn't answer without making convoluted changes here and there and explaining, like, what the writers meant. Because that's the worst thing that you can do, is that as a writer, when you create something and it makes no sense, at least from what the information we have currently, it doesn't make your product look good. So there was a lot of things around here. So I'm glad the writers actually took a lot of that stuff, started explaining, like, what is going on to Zayto, what is really happening. Because we have complained for a lot of seasons where writers would set something up, it's ignored, dropped, screwed up in some way. So it kind of feels like Cosmic Fury is like, okay, we have done that in the past. We're going to try really hard to make something make sense. When you start analyzing the season, you feel like, oh my god, they're actually paying attention to things here and here. There's actually story progression. They all go into their split up fights. And the first one who actually defeats a monster is Javi, because he has much more strength thanks to that new robotic arm. But another thing that the scene also showcases of how well Ollie deals with the situation, because he was noticing that several of the monsters were having more and more problems dealing with the fight. So he realized, oh, they need backup. Go to this one and help him fight. You could see that potential leadership role that Ollie could do if other parts of his personality were more either reined in. Him being a Dark Blue Ranger was really deadly. Probably would have succeeded if his team didn't suck. Now, if you're an MMPR fan, there's a couple of things here and there that feel like, did they get inspired by stuff from MMPR and Jew Ranger? Overall, I do like the direction that Zayto is taking in the story and what we get revealed later on near the final episodes of the season. But I still believe that it would have made more sense and worked better if Zayto remained dead till this point of the story, because again, he was ripped out from episode 1 like literally 4 or 5 minutes in, and then he's gone until now. It would have made more sense and even work within the Q Ranger footage, where not much has to be changed for what they did in this episode, just certain things. You know, Zayto stayed dead, so why are we going to this planet in the first place? If we don't have Zayto to look for, how do we deal with that story change? Well, in later episodes, they do deal with other Cosmic Fury Zords that were found on other planets, and you know, I don't mind that. Obviously, it is kind of convenient that the Cosmic Fury Zords are on Zordania and then magically on other planets, where it's just like, this doesn't make sense overall. Like, what is going on in the backstory of the Cosmic Fury Zords? Like, I mean, they could have added story, but again, there's no time to. But it would have made more sense if Zayto had remained dead or remained a secret. They came to this planet because they found another Cosmic Fury Zord, and Zayto was the one who was trying to revive it. In this case, other Cosmic Fury Zords were taken from Zordania. When they took them, because they were incomplete, they lost all their power and became useless. And that's where Zayto comes in. He's found alive, trying to figure out, you know, how to repower this Zord, because now He doesn't have his powers anymore because his powers were destroyed along with the other Rangers. He has to do things other ways. And you could still link it up to the initial story idea they had of his power was being drained in order into the Zord. And so these, living trees help and revive him. But speaking of his background, it is very reminiscent to Jew Ranger in a lot of ways. For people who don't know what happened in Jew Ranger, unlike Tommy in MMPR who survived in the series but he just lost his powers, Burai, he died. In the original storyline for that, he found out what happened to himself from this odd, powerful being that looks like a child. He also decided to not tell the other Jew Rangers of his fate. The Jew Rangers were hidden away in various things. They were hidden in mirrors, protected by Barza, until they were needed to deal with Bandora in the future. Burai, much like them, he was kind of like cocooned away. Unfortunately, that cocoon was damaged over the millions of years, probably from various earthquakes and other problems, so he technically died. This plot line is very similar to what they do with Zayto. He stumbles onto an odd, powerful thing, the trees, and they understand that, he is, slowly dying himself. He's losing energy, and he also decides to keep that a secret from everyone. So I wondered if the writers were inspired by Jew Ranger, or was that just a lucky happenstance? But even other little things here and there kind of clue me in that they, took things from Jew Ranger as well. Like when we get a good look later episodes of Eltar, a lot of the elements that we see on Eltar, the building designs and shapes and colors, yes, they do link up to Zordon because, when we saw him in the MMPR movie, he wore a white, outfit. His skin was pale white. But at the same time, the building designs are very much like what we saw in the base of where Barza kept the Jew Ranger. Overall, like I said, I do like Zayto's direction of where they're going with the character. It keeps his character a mystery, and what's going on, what's happening, is he dead, is he not dead, is he alive, is he overpowered, as well as it explains and fixes a lot of things that happened with the Morphing Master's introduction. Now, one of the final bigger moments was when we found out Zedd is conquering Eltar. And, it was good that they actually brought that in. It's a place that, of course, Zedd would hate the most. They are the people who have always created hope in the galaxy around either being able to create Zords, helping various planets, of course, Zordon helping Earth the most. And he would savor in the moment of conquering that planet and creating a new castle. He seems to have this obsession with giant towers with huge open windows. It also does answer the question, was Zedd's tower in MMPR, was that a part of Rita's palace originally, or was it actually tacked on at the last minute? So he's like, well, I'm going to have a tower of mine be a part of your palace to basically remind you, if you screw up and fail with Earth, I'm going to come back and assume control. What I also liked about this episode was that it finally got a good use out of Ollie. All the other episodes were focusing on so much stuff, he really didn't get a time to shine. And, this is the case where I really wish the season went on longer, because I would have loved to have seen what could you do with him as an evil ranger, more so than Tarek in Dino Fury. It would have been interesting to follow someone who was genuinely evil, kind of like, think of it like, if we took the idea of Eric, and that went through the entire season all the way nearly to the end of the show, I would have loved to have seen a 40-episode Cosmic Fury season of Ollie being evil for 80% of that, and we would see how that would go. I mean, it is kind of dangerous, and that was the major problem that happened in Abba Ranger, because Mikoto, Abba Killer, that kills toy sales because a lot of people hate evil rangers until they're good. I loved him being evil, but I understand that you have to turn him good at a certain point for the sake of the series, sake of the character. I think they also handled Mick much better in this episode, although there was a couple of bits where he was like a little over the top. I know Mick in general is over the top, but I think Cosmic Fury kind of makes everyone go a little bit too high in that area where it's like they're too energetic. I wish they would kind of mellow them out a little bit more whenever they deliver dialogue, but it's not like it's a total detriment. Of course, it builds on, Zayto's secret, like what is going on, what is happening to him, what can he do, because he can use the Morphing Master Staff all of a sudden, And of course, he got his new Cosmic Fury powers, which again, I just think it would have just worked much more better if he was a Red Ranger along with Amelia, because it kind of makes you think, like, some people, I'd say, well, like, maybe they didn't want him to be another Red Ranger because it would take away from Amelia, but then that kind of just says there's no faith in Amelia in general. It's like, yeah, she has every right to be the Red Ranger. Let Zayto be also the Red Ranger too. Let them work together as two cool people and show their strengths and weaknesses. That's really the perfect way to actually showcase Amelia did genuinely earned it by, like, kind of going in the direction of, oh, he can't be the Red Ranger anymore. He has to be a completely different color, on top of the annoying aspect of, like, well, he couldn't be the White Ranger because that seems to be wrong. And of course, even, you know, using the Q Ranger elements more, that would have been an advantage to the story as well. Instead of using that purple dragons, what they use later in episodes, you could have used the Phoenix Zords and stuff elements from Q Ranger, and it would have made more sense. It's not as good as episode 3. There, like I said, there's a couple of things here and there that I'm like, you could have done a little bit better. And it's showing that the show is progressing well. We're getting to the middle of the season. The tension is building. Although I will say one thing. It was kind of convenient that the Ranger that got lost had a cape. Although I will nitpick, Zayto's powers were lost along with everyone. So why does the cape still exist at all? Why does the cape still exist when his powers are turned off in general? Maybe they could have done that a different way, using his actual regular clothing when he lost his powers. I think that would have worked much more better. So what were your favorite moments in the episode? Me particularly, I think my favorite moment had to go to Evil Ollie. I think one of the things I kind of hated with Lord Zedd specifically was the way he treated Goldar. Now, for the most part, Goldar, you can't argue he was the most proficient, respectable enemy in MMPR compared to all the others, bar like Scorpina. She equally is as well done, just she didn't get that much screen time, unfortunately. The one thing that I particularly liked was that, you know, Lord Zedd did respect him to a degree, but, you know, it did devolve into the whole, like, oh, I'm going to yell at you, you're incompetent, you're stupid, you failed. So I did like it in this case when Zedd came back. He's not as crazy as that. Yeah, he does yell at imbecilic people, like the guy who gives him the drinks and whatnot. But I think Zedd learned not to mistreat his generals, because it overall does not help you. Because, yeah, Ollie's failed, Ollie has screwed up, but you could see that Zedd understands, well, you were thinking as a Power Ranger. Use that evil power I granted you to your advantage and stomp the Rangers. Don't rely on monsters and stuff. They will fail and screw you up. An underlying message of, like, yeah, Zedd has kind of learned a lot of things over the years, and possibly, you know, out of necessity, because again, all intents and purposes, we know that obviously good and evil Zedd were split. He failed. He ultimately, royally failed. How many times? Season 2 of MMPR, Season 3, got insulted by the Machine Empire by, you know, driving around in a Winnebago. So, okay, I screwed up because of XYZ got to me, or I dealt with stupid minions, and maybe I shouldn't chastise them that much. Deal with their stupidity and try to sculpt it to help me. So you could see that's one most likely why Zedd this time around is actually working, and why Ollie, for a not better term, that he's improving as the evil Blue Ranger. When I see Zedd and Ollie, it's such a breath of fresh air, because we have had so many stupid villains, or the chances of having a really good villain, Heckle, Dino Charge, and it was all blown and wasted down the drain because we had to have them act stupid. And, oh, remember that from MMPR? It's like, can we have really good villains like we did in Lightspeed Rescue, where, yeah, we can have some dumb moments here and there, but have them be competent and scary again? But of course, there's other aspects that you can love about the show. You know, Zayto came back. We're starting to get answers from what happened to him. Javi, you know, he's finally getting used to his arm. So there's a lot of stuff to appreciate in this episode.